All right, so today we are going to study the CSS Animation course offered by Scrimba. So here's one of the things with website is that nowadays every website are extremely interactive, and yeah, if your website isn't interactive to the user, it would not hold the user to stay on the website for a long time. So yeah, there's a lot of things nowadays are created for the client to explore the web page, and they scroll on it, or they look like it's smooth, it's cool. So it's going to keep the user retention for a longer time. Right, for a longer time, it's going to keep the user to stay on your page longer. The longer they stay, the higher the chance that they might be converted into a customers or a buyers or your clients or whatever. So it's basically just there, make website look cool, keep the retention rate high, and keep them coming back to your page because this look cool, something like that. Yeah. So now today we are going to learn the CSS Animation course.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CSS Animations course. So before we get started, I'm going to create this video to kind of run you through what we're going to be doing in the course.
Okay.
I'm going to go through section by section and explain the skills we will be learning. And I'm also going to explain a little bit about the course structure, how things work, so you can really get familiarized with everything before we go ahead and start. So first of all, let's talk about what you're going to learn by the end of this course. So you're going to know the basics of CSS animations. You're going to be able to apply it to real world scenarios and use it in a variety of situations. You're also going to be able to use or do the same with transitions and transforms. So we're going to learn a ton of effects and CSS properties to be used with these animations. We're also going to learn how to make these animations compatible across browsers and user-friendly so you can really make the best out of them. So the main way that the course works is that it's split up into sections, with each section focusing on a single topic. So for example, one section could be focused on animations. Each section is going to have these tiny challenges in each video to kind of test the things that you learn in those videos. But then there are also two extra challenges at the end. One is just a large normal challenge to test your understanding and to, really get you familiarized with the structure, and then a real world challenge that helps you apply those skills to a real scenario. So we'll see a couple examples of those in just a second. So before we get started, I'm just going to give you some warnings about the course. So the initial challenges that you're working with, especially in the videos and the non-real world ones, may seem a little bit easy and kind of remedial, but that's what they're kind of intended to do. They're meant to build some muscle memory for those skills so you can really get used to them, and when you do end up having to use them in proper situations, you'll be ready. Another warning is just with the playback window. HTML and CSS renderings are going to be played in real time. So if you speed up the video or pause it or skip through it or anything like that, just beware that it will still be playing in real time. It won't be playing with the video. So let's go ahead and get started. The first section is going to be focused on transitions. So we're going to learn what they are, where they can be used, and how to actually apply and work with them. So the main single normal challenge to get you used to it is just to create and apply a couple of transitions from scratch. And now the real world challenge, which is the fun part, is to take these transition skills and apply them to a website where you can see we have this menu here. We have a couple of hovers and grow features that you can see here. The next section is going to be focused on animation. So we're going to be, again, learning what they are, how they work, and we're also going to be learning about these special features that come with animations called keyframes. So we're going to be learning how to use those, and then we're going to go ahead and customize our animations. So just like before, the challenge or the main challenge is going to be to just create and apply an animation from scratch. This includes writing the keyframes, applying it, and customizing it. And then our real world challenge is to create animations for a landing page. So it's pretty common to see animated landing pages, especially for newer sites. So we're going to be putting our skills to the test and actually working with them. You can see this a little GIF here. You can see that we have a nice animation in the background with an expanding background and then some faded in text. So that's what we're going to be doing in that section. The next section is going to be focused on effects and transforms. So these aren't actually focused on animations directly, but they are very useful when it comes to animating things and even outside of animations, just general CSS. So we're going to learn the various types of effects or transforms that we can use, and then we're going to be applying and integrating them into our animations and transitions. So both of these challenges, these large challenges, involve the animation skills we've learned in the previous section, which is actually a great way to retain what you've learned. But what we're going to be focusing on is creating animations, and it's not really the animations that we're focused on, but what goes inside them. So the challenge is going to be to create and apply these animations using those effects that we learn in the section. And then the real world challenge is going to be quite similar. We're going to animate a logo. We're going to be creating an animation using those effects and then apply those to a logo. You can see that here. We have a little animation that goes back and forth. So we're going to be doing that in this section. So the final section is quite unorganized. It's not really focused on a single topic. It's just those outlier videos that you can really put in any other section. So these are still very important skills. I highly recommend you watch them. Things like browser compatibility and streamlining your style sheets are all included in this section. Although there won't be any large challenges, there will still be those tiny challenges that, those mini challenges that test your skills at the end of each video, but there isn't going to be any large real world scenario. All right, let's get started. Hi, welcome back. So in this video, I am going to be talking to you about working with the Scrimba workspace and really using the course to its full potential. So I'm going to be going through and explaining what all of this does and how things fit together. There and watch the video. It can really help you to move on.
I watched that already.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be talking about transitions in CSS. So we're going to cover what they are, where you can see them, and where they can be used. So right now, I just have a little setup here where I have some text, and when you hover over it, it changes the size and the color. So if I go over to my CSS file, what we do is use something called a pseudo class, which lets you set properties based on the state that an element is in. So in this case, whenever the heading class or any elements with the heading class are hovered over, their color changes to aqua and their font size changes to 20 pixels. So when you hover over this, you can see that those changes are applied. Now, that's all well and good, but you can see that when we hover over it, it's kind of choppy and it goes instantly from the properties of the normal state when nothing's being hovered over to the properties when it is being hovered over. And so what we want to kind of do here is sort of transition it so that it looks a little bit more smooth and works properly. Now, I'm not going to be teaching you how to do it, but what we do is we use something called the transition property. And like I said, you do not need to know what this means or how it works, but what this is actually going to do is basically allow properties that are specified to sort of transition over a period of time. So if we go and hover over it now, you can see that it transitions instead of just chopping straight to the new properties. So over the next few videos, we're going to be learning how to work with transition properties, working with them, applying them, and just, integrating them into our CSS and our style sheets. All right, let's move on. Hi, welcome back. So in the last video, I talked about what transitions were and how they were applied in the real world, but in this video, we're going to be going through and creating and applying our own transition. So this looks quite similar to the previous video and the setup that we had, except I removed all of the edits and styles that allowed me to create that transition. So instead, we are going to be writing it step by step, and I'm going to be walking you through how to create these transitions. So let's go ahead and get started. So in order to actually change the style that we want to use based on the state of the element, we need to use something called a pseudo class. So the typical formula for a pseudo class is you have the name of the class or the element or the selector. It could be an ID selector, a class selector, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to follow it with a colon and some word that's going to describe what state you're trying to target. So in this case, our class selector that we're going to use is heading. So we're going to type dot heading, colon, and then what we're going to want to use is hover. So what this is representing is whenever this element or any elements with the heading selector are hovered over. And then everything just works like normal. We're going to open up our class and start typing whatever properties. So remember, these properties are only going to be applied when the element is hovered over or whatever pseudo class is being activated. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the color. And let's just go ahead and use something simple. I'm going to maybe say brown. And then I'm also going to change the font size. So let's go ahead and set that to maybe 25 pixels. So what we expect is when this element is hovered over, I'm going to do that in just a sec, what's going to happen is the color of the element will be changed to brown and the font size will be changed to 25 pixels. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, refresh the page. Yeah, there we go. So you can see that when we hover over our element, the color and the size are changed. So now we have all that said and done, but again, like in the last video, we need to fix it so that it has that nice smooth transition. So the way you do that is you use something called the transition property. Now, the general formula for this is the first part of the value is going to be the specific property you want to transition. So for example, I can target color only. So I don't have to target the size and the color, but I can target color specifically. And then the second part is going to be the time that it takes to transition in seconds. So I am going to go ahead and type maybe 0.5 seconds. So now let's go ahead and check that out. So you can see that the size changes instantly since we didn't transition that, but the color takes 0.5 seconds to transition. Now, if you want to target multiple properties, all you have to do is separate them by a comma. So I can target color and I can target the font size. And I can even change the timing if I wanted to. So I can set this to 1 second to change the size and 0.5 seconds to change the color. Let's go ahead and check that out. So you can see that the font size takes 1 second to change while the color takes 0.5 seconds. Now, this is good for specific properties, but if you have maybe 10 or 20 styles that you all want to transition, you're not going to go through and type all that out. So the way you can do this is using the all shorthand. So all you do is type all, and this is basically going to take all of the properties that are changed based on the pseudo class and transition them. So the one downside of this is really that you all have to limit it to the same size, but if you want, you can add extra properties after that to change their timing. So let's go ahead and look at that. And now you can see it does the exact same thing, and it takes 0.5 seconds to change the size. All right, so now it's time for a little challenge.
This is pretty easy, pretty understandable. I did a lot of this. So we might
go through,
skip
take
through
this text
a lot of
and
it.
transition it over half a second to change the font color to green, the font size to 20 pixels, and the spacing between the letters to 10 pixels. All right, good luck.
Should have paste the so colors, green, font size, FS. So here's the shorthand that you can use so that it's easier to code is 20 px. No, not like that. fs 20 pixel. Then transition all 1 sec. Yeah. That's good.
So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and add that there.
Letter spacing
And now
10.
I'm going to transition all, since all of those properties need to be transition.
Letter spacing. Look ugly.
Over half a second. Move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Customizing transition.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, I am going to be talking about some more properties and customizable features of transitions. So we're going to be looking through and we're going to be looking at things like delays and specific timing functions that let us further customize our transition. So right now we ended up at the point that you did the challenge and we have all of this over here. So we have our changed font size and our color. But now we're going to go through and really break apart this transition and look at all of the properties that come with it so we can try and get the most out of it. So right now, if we go to our CSS style sheet, you can see that we have this transition property here. Now, although this is pretty good for basic, usage, if you don't want to really customize it and make it your own, then this is all right. But there are a ton of different features that you can use on top of this to really make the transition how you want it. So the first of these that we're going to talk about is transition delay. So what this basically does is what it says. It's going to add a delay to the beginning of the transition before it starts. So let's say we want a 1 second delay, for example. Let's go ahead and open up our site here. We hover and it takes 1 second before it starts. So again, this just works with seconds value. You can set it to whatever you want. The next thing I want to talk about is breaking up our property and our duration into separate properties. So although this is the typical way that anyone would do it, you can break this up into specific properties. So we can actually specify the properties we want in this property here, transition property, and we use a comma separated list of values, or we can just use the all. So we can say that here, or we can specify color and font size just like we did before. So for now, I'm just going to set all. Now, one thing you need to watch out for is if you use this, you need to make sure you also use the transition duration property. Because what's going to happen is if you don't set this and you just have this property here, it's going to set the property, but no duration will be set. So therefore, it will just look as if nothing happened. So we're going to go ahead and set that to 0.5 seconds, just like that. So there we go. Now we split up that one property into two. So the next property we're going to be talking about is the transition timing function. So what this is going to focus on is how our transition plays out. Is it going to be linear? So it's just going to go from one point to the other with no real shifts in speed? Or are we going to have it faster at the beginning and then slower at the end? So the property we're going to use for this is called transition timing function. I know it's quite long, but this is the property that we're going to use. So there are multiple.
I believe this is like the ease in, ease out, and the ease function. Not a function. What is it called? Like property. I believe that is the one.
Multiple values that you can put here. So the default value that we're going to use is linear. So you don't actually have to set it since this is the default. But what's going to happen is this is pretty much going to say from start to end, it's going to go in a straight line pretty much. No changes in speed. We also have ease in, and then we have all of these different properties here. So they all have to do with at what point does the the transition start to slow. So why don't we just go ahead with ease here. So now let's go ahead and check out our animation here. So we have that 1 second delay, and you can see, although it's not really noticeable, it does have a slight ease. If I were to maybe increase the duration to 2 seconds, let's just set the delay to 0 seconds for now. When we hover over it, you can kind of see that towards the end of the animation, it starts to slow down. So there we go, sorry, the transition. So there we go, there is our transition timing function. So those are the 4 main properties that we're going to be using throughout for transitions. Now I'm going to challenge you now, so I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this so you don't get to see it. So my challenge to you now is we have our CSS here. What I'm going to tell you to do is I need you to modify this transition so that it only targets the font size. It has a 1 second delay. It takes 0.5 seconds to run through, and it has an ease in timing function. So go ahead and do that.
Right, it's pretty easy. Transition, property, only the font size, right? Font size. I don't think people use it this way in the real world. They don't use transition like or type like this. Just copy some transition online, or sometimes they have like their own template. This is like a good fundamentals, you know. Delay is going to be, what is it? 0.5, let's do 0.5. Duration 1 second. Duration, forgot what he say, but transition timing function ease. Right, that's good.
Now.
Cubic pit.
All right, let's go ahead and set it. So first thing we want to do is set the transition.
I think people use cubic bezier a lot more than ease or something like that. You can switch it to this and you copy. This look kind of like an ease. Yeah, ease out. So at the end is lower. Ease in. Ease kind of look like ease out, and ease in is go fast and then slow, right? Go slow and then fast. Go slow and then fast. So progress, and boom. This ease out. You know, yeah, enough of that. Move back
Property.
to this.
Property. So what this is going to do is, because it's only targeting the size, we're not going to use the all value. We're just going to select font size, which is, so all we have to, you can see we have transitions and things like that. Now
Right, let's move on.
All into one property. All right, let's move on.
Transition shorthand.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, I am going to be going through and teaching you a shorthand simple property that can be used to combine all 4 of these properties into one single property. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Now we have all of this customization set up, but obviously you don't want to go through and type all of this for every single transition you want to do. So that's why we're going to use one simple property that we can use to combine all 4 of these into one value. So we did use this at the beginning, and it is called the transition property. That's it, just transition. So the way this works is you're going to have 4 4 words or values, and you're going to combine them all, and it's going to be used to set the property, delay, duration, and timing function. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the property. So for example, this could be all or font size or whatever. And because we're just trying to copy these directly, I'm going to go ahead and throw font size in there. The next thing is going to be the duration. So that's going to be 0.5 seconds. The next is going to be the timing function. So this is going to be ease in. Again, we're just taking it from these values up here. And finally is going to be our delay, which is 1 second. So let me go ahead and erase all of this. And you can see that when I open up my browser here and look at it, gotta refresh it. The hovering happens exactly the same with the same delay. So this is one way to summarize all of that, and you can see it only takes one line. Now, the reason this is so useful is not only does it save space and time, but when you get into stuff like browser compatibility, which we'll cover later in the course, this becomes an extremely useful way to, keep your files small and not use as many lines. So yeah, I would highly recommend using this shorthand from here on out. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. So what I'm going to need you to do is use the transition shorthand to create a transition using all of the properties that last half a second, uses the ease timing function, and has no delay. All right, good luck.
Oh, the same things. So transition. We do font size. First of all, is it the delay? I believe it is the delay. So 0.5 sec, and then 1 sec, and then ease. Let me see. So the delay is later. 1 second. 0.5 sec. Yeah, that is the one. Wait for half a second, and then do the transition for 1 minute in the ease progression.
All right, line. So the first thing we're going to set is the properties that we want to target, which is all of them. Then we're going to look at the time or duration of the transition, which is half a second or 0.5 seconds. Then we're going to look at the timing function, which is going to be ease. And then finally, the delay, which is 0 seconds. And since...
This is wrong. So 0.5 ease, and then 1 second. Why is it still red? Oh, because the red is already there. So we do all. Now that is the one.
We don't actually need to include it since, that's the default value. We can just leave it at that. So let's go ahead and look at our browser here. All right, so that's pretty much it for so far. All right, let's move on. Hi, welcome back. So you've made it this far, you've learned all about transitions and how to customize them. So now it's time for a nice large challenge to bring everything together and create a transition from scratch. So what we're going to be doing is creating a pseudo class, and we're going to be using it to set certain properties over this with this hovering over this element. And then we're going to use the transition properties or shorthand, it's up to you, to create a transition. So the first thing I want is for when this heading is hovered over to change the font size to 10 pixels and the color to green, just plain green. And then for the transition, it needs to have a 1-second delay, focus on all of the properties, have a 1-second duration, and a timing function of ease in. All right, good luck, and I'll see you when you're done. Hi, welcome back. So you've made it this far, you've learned all about transitions and how to customize them. So now it's time for a nice large challenge to bring everything together and create a transition from scratch. So
when I type it, it's
what we're going to be doing is creating a pseudo class, and we're going to be using it to set certain properties over this with this hovering over this element. And then we're going to use the transition properties or shorthand, it's up to you, to create a transition. So the first thing I want is for when this heading is hovered over to change the font size to 10 pixels and
right. Do heading, hovers. Color to green, and then we do FS 10. Now we do a transition. Transition is going to be all. Did he say 1 second?
And the color to green, just plain green. And then for the transition, it needs to have a 1-second delay, focus on all of the properties, have a 1-second duration, and a
1-second duration on S, ease in, and 1 second. Okie dokie. Transition, delay, default value 0 second. Let's try this. Wait 1 second and then just go back. So the progression ease in is going to go really slow at the beginning, and then it's whoop, right? Ease in, yep.
Timing function of ease in. So let's use the same. We're gonna let's time 1 second, and it's green. All right, so there we go. Features you can add on to transitions, but we're going to hold on to that until the end of the course. All right, let's move on.
Right, I have something to do right now. I need to go. We will go back and finish this.